9:02 a.m. on Tuesday, August 15th, 2023, and I call to order this meeting of the Maine Gambling Control Board. My name is Steve Silver. I am the board chair. Before we go any further, I'd like to explain the circumstances under which we're holding this meeting, set up some ground rules for how we'll be conducting it. This is a hybrid meeting. The physical location of this meeting is at 45 Commerce Drive in Augusta, Maine. We've got Chief March from the board in person with the unit staff. I had to be remote this month. So we're also providing a virtual attendance option via Zoom. The board expects that members of the public who attend the board meeting virtually will be able to provide public comment to the same extent as members of the public who attend in person. If you're participating in Zoom, please mute your devices until it's your time to talk. Gambling Control Unit, on behalf of the board, posted notices of this hybrid meeting on its website with instructions on how members of the public could access the meeting. That's how I got on, so I know the link works. In addition, the unit, on behalf of the board, sends agendas in advance of the meeting to those that have requested so by registering their request with the unit. It is the board's sincere hope that all those interested in the subject matter of today's meeting have received notice of the meeting and how to participate electronically. So at this time, I'll introduce the other board members and confirm that we have a quorum. When I call your name, please identify yourself for the public and raise your hand if you're on video, and let us know who you are and where you're from in Maine. So we'll start in the room. Chief March.
Good morning, everyone. Noel March. I reside in Hamden, Maine.
Ms. Green.
Good morning, Sarah Green, and I am in South Portland, Maine.
All right, and I am Steve Silver from South Portland, currently coming to you from Southwest Harbor. So it's a little cloudy day up here, but it is beautiful near Acadia. So we have three. Expect Joe Hanslip to join us, but we've got a quorum, so we can move on. We want to start with the approval of minutes from May 16th, 2023. I had one comment on page, this is from the May meeting. On page 3, the heading says Executive Director Report, then it says Get Melt's Report. So let's just take that out. Did someone respond? I couldn't hear it.
Yes, Mallory responded.
Sorry, yeah, I'll make that change.
Okay, that's the only typo I noticed. Any other board members have any comments? Seeing none, someone want to move to approve?
So move, March.
Second, Green.
All right, we will take a roll call vote. Chief March.
Aye.
Ms. Green.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. So those are approved with that one change. Moving right along, we've got an operations report from Inspector Supervisor Vicki Gardner.
Good morning. I apologize. My camera doesn't seem to be working this morning. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to start right off with May 2023's operation report. There was 14 shipments of machines and associated equipment shipped to and from the licensed facilities. On-site inspectors completed 703 observations and 32 checklists, and there were 5 self-exclusions. There were 8 minor violations that will continue to be monitored from our activity log. There were 0 patrons complaints and 2 formal complaints of potential violations placed on the dashboard. So in addition, we had for calls for service from the police departments, Oxford PD had 8 calls for service. 6 were in the parking lot or hotel. 12 were from the casino floor. They were unwanted subjects, arrest on warrants, drugs, 911 hangups, and the PD is now conducting walkthrough details. At Hollywood Casino, there were 24 calls for service by Bangor PD. 11 were in the parking garage, outside hotels or little lobbies. There were 13 at the casino. They went from theft, fraud, 8 wanted out, welfare checks, and 911 hangouts. That completes May's operation report. Moving on, if no one has any questions, moving on to the next month, June 2023. There were 17 shipments of machines and associated equipment shipped to or from the licensed facilities. On-site inspectors completed 739 observations, 32 checklists. There were 16 self-exclusions. There was 1 minor violation that will continue to be monitored from our activity log. There were 0 patrons complaints, and there were 4 formal complaints of potential violations placed on the dashboard. Oxford Casino had 9 calls for service at the casino. There were 4 complaints in the parking lot and hotels outside, 5 from the casino that included threats, assault, trespassing, 911 hangups, and a weapons offense. Subject was carrying a concealed weapon or carrying a weapon. Hollywood Casino, there were 17 calls for service by Bangor PD, 13 of them, or 12 of them were from the parking garage, hotel, and lobby. 5 were from the casino, including disorderly conduct, intoxication, trespass, and wanted out. That completes June. And then July of 2023, there were 7 shipments of machines and associated equipment shipped to and from the licensed facilities. On-site inspectors completed 636 observations, 35 checklists. There were 13 self-exclusions. There were 18 minor violations that will continue to be monitored from our activity log, 0 patrons complaints, and 2 formal complaints of potential violations placed on the dashboard. Oxford Casino had 20 calls for service by the Oxford Police Department. 10 were in the parking lot and hotel. 10 were on the casino floor. They included wanted outs, intoxications, thefts, medical assistance, and again, the PD does walk through details. Hollywood Casino had 23 calls for service by Bangor PD. 16 were in the parking garage or outside at the hotel or in the lobby. 7 were on the casino floor. They included wanted out, welfare checks, 911 hangups, drugs, and intoxications. And that completes my report.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Ms. Gardner? All right.
I have
Seeing
a
none.
question,
Oh, go
Chair
ahead.
Silver. Yeah, as I typically do, I'm always interested in the law enforcement dimensions of compliance. And I think you mentioned a couple times there that, and I just don't think I've heard it before, but forgive me if this is an ongoing practice, the Oxford PD conducting some walkthrough details. I'm just curious, is that something new? And if so, is that at the behest of Oxford Casino? Do you happen to know, or perhaps Oxford Casino can speak to that? Or is that just the initiative of Oxford Police Department to conduct good proactive presence with the property?
Well, from what I can tell, they've begun to appear on our list of things, and I believe the PD on occasion walks through the casino and they draw a number for service for that. I'm not really sure of the cause for it, but they're certainly invited to come and walk through the casino anytime that they'd like. I'm not sure if that answered your question.
Is that new? Do we know, is that a recent partnership sort of development in terms of Oxford's Police Department's presence, additional presence in the casino?
I believe it is. I'm just not sure of the cause or the reason for it. Not necessarily indicating that there's a cause, anything other than being good stewards.
Yeah, it's a good practice. I mean nothing other than I'm just curious about how that came to pass, and thank you for your answer.
Yeah, it is relatively new. I'd say I started seeing it about 3 to 4 months ago.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Vicky. Moving on, financial report from Auditor Alex Jutoff.
Hello and good morning. For those of
Oh,
you that
sorry.
don't know me, my name is Amanda Spencer, stepping in for Alex Dutop today. Uh, Regarding changes in casino tax revenue due to the state of Maine, tax revenue increased by 2.94% for both facilities in May 2023 compared to 2022. Tax revenue increased by 7.09% for both facilities in June of 2023 compared to 2022. Tax revenue increased by 1.00% for both facilities in July of 2023 compared to 2022. Year-to-date total tax revenue collected through July 2023 was 3.58% higher than the prior year at this time, and this amount totaled $38,966,839. Specifically by casino, during 2023, the Oxford Casino reported total net win from slot machines as 8.04% for May, 7.7% for June, and 8.15% for July. Reported total win from table games was 27.44% for May, 25.15% for June, and 22.88% for July. This casino also reported slot machine payout percentages of 91.96% for May, 92.3% for June, and 91.85% for July, with average gross wins per slot machine of $254.95 in May, $271.49 in June, and $290.89 in July. During 2023, the Hollywood Casino reported a total net win from slot machines as 8.36% for May, 8.44% for June, and 8.87% for July. Reported total win from table games was 19.28% for May, 22.99% for June, and 20.22% for July. This casino also reported a payout percentage of 91.64% for May, 91.56% for June, and 91.13% for July, with average gross wins per slot machine of $193.13 for May, $241.84 in June, and $258.49 in July. With regards to advanced deposit wagering, we observed a decrease of 10.4% for May 2023, a decrease of 12% for June of 2023, and a decrease of 14% for July 2023 compared to the same months in 2022. Total year-to-date tax revenue collected by the end of July 2023 from in-state and out-of-state races was $141,859, a decrease of 6.7% compared to the same time last year. Are there any questions?
Okay, any questions from the board? Thank you. Yeah, it looks like a really strong May, June, and July. So good work to Hollywood and Oxford. Strong summer. All right, moving on. Director Champion, do you have a report for us?
Absolutely. Good morning. As a legislative update, we had two bills under the Gambling Control Board. LD 504, which is the bill sets the initial application fee for slot machine distributors and distributes no more than 50 machines per facility.
Hey, Mel, can we move the
ahead.
camera to you? I'm looking at an empty podium.
Sorry. Wrong way.
There we go.
Joe is on my way.
Great.
Oh, okay, good.
I was going to translate. I think it is Joe.
Yeah, Joe's on. Yeah,
Great.
he's on the camera.
Thanks.
Good, good. Okay, as a legislative update, LD 504, which is the bill that sets the initial application fee for a slot distributor that distributes no more than 50 machines per facility at a fee of 50,000, and the annual renewal fee for those distributors is 10,000. The bills and appropriations to be carried over to the next, the regular session, which will be beginning January 2024. LD 731, this is the ADW bill that was approved by the governor with emergency preamble, making this legislation effective on July 26, 2023. Rulemaking has initiated with a current pre-legal review, and proposed language should be ready for the board review in September. I'd like to reiterate my position on tax supporting documents. I will not accept screenshots. I've said this before and I'll say it for the last time. Documents supporting the applicant's position must be on an IRS or main tax letterhead. Pre-screening is important. Pre-screening is important, and applicants have to understand that they must meet the regulated requirements in advance of submitting an application. And because it is part of the suitability requirement, I see no reason why a potential applicant cannot be asked about their tax status during the initial interview process. While we do not get many of these, the ones that we get take a lot of Mallory and my time when the proper documentation is not submitted. So going forward, these applications will be returned. And my last comment would be, in light of board member Sari Green having to leave early, I'd like to recommend that we move unfinished business up ahead of licensing renewals and initials so that she can have input on chapter 13. That's my report.
Milt, can you explain quickly what the ADW bill was for the board?
So basically, prior to or the current law, well, now it's a new law, but the past law was one awardee through a bidding process was given the opportunity to accept advanced deposit wagers in the state of Maine. Penn ADW LLC was the recipient of that award. And so what this bill does is it basically opens it up that anybody can apply for a license now. We're anticipating anywhere between 6 and 10 operators now with that ability to accept wagers in Maine. So we've submitted the initial rulemaking, so we're going to roll this out as quickly as we can so that the operators can apply get their license. And this is strictly for horse wagering now. This is nothing in relation to sports wagering or fantasy. It's a totally separate entity. So that's the bill.
Okay. And update on sports wagering. The rules are under review, I suppose.
Yeah, right now they're under legal review, and we're working the details out now, and with an anticipation to go live in November.
Still a lack of applications?
No, they're starting to trickle in. It's making me very nervous, but we're working right now with putting together basically a checklist to be consistent in regards to being able to give out temporary licenses. I don't think anybody will be able to go through the full investigation because they're pretty intense. So we anticipate getting the applications in as long as they're deemed complete. Then we'll be able to issue a temporary license, which current law that gives us a year before gives us a year to give the initial license. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Any other board members have questions for Director Champion? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move item 7, unfinished business, about chapter 13 up till now. I don't know who wants to take the lead on this.
Well, I guess I could, and.
Hey,
Whoops,
Oh,
Yeah, whoever is Peter keeps unmuting themselves, so we may have to remove them at some point.
Yeah.
okay, there we go. So this is in relation to rulemaking changes that we've been talking about, I guess, for some time now with regards to chapter 13, the exclusion. And
hey,
so,
Peter here, just calling in from California, just wondering.
Yeah, just remove
that's
this.
not Vicky.
He's
So just
been-
wondering, like, if I can join in this conversation.
No, why does it say Vicky? Hang on, working on it.
Hey, Peter here, just wondering if I can join in the conversation, calling in from Dallas.
no, you can't.
Where are they? There they are.
Hey, shut the fuck up.
Whoa,
Okay,
Let's
anyway, they're not coming
Oh.
back.
let's remove Peter. Yeah,
They're gone.
okay.
well, a little early in California for that aggression.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not letting them back in.
Oh, yeah, I think she's blocked them.
They're gone.
Yeah.
I have to approve them to come back in, so.
Yeah, okay. So we've been discussing chapter 13. We did put out rules for response only. We got one written response. And so now we're coming back. We put together some proposed language. There was a copy submitted by board member March. And I believe also a couple other members, I believe Chair Silver also submitted something. And then the AAGs have some comments as well. So I think basically what we're looking at is just trying to finalize chapter 13 with the changes that the board needs to approve. I don't know if Jen, you want to add to that?
If I could just ask a question, it sounds like there some additional submissions have been made for consideration by the board, which I thought we were past that phase, but if I'm understanding correctly, it does sound like the board has proposed some additional changes that they would like to discuss at this time. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. And then your attorneys do have some advice about removing references to sports wagering, and we can make those recommendations whenever you're ready to hear that. But it sounds like you have language to discuss in the interim.
Well, I thought the language I submitted, I did previously.
Yes, you did. Yeah,
Which document is that?
that
Chair
would
Silver
have been
submitted.
from the last meeting in May.
No, I just mean which document in the file? There are,
It wouldn't be in the, it would not be in the August. If you're looking in the Dropbox, it would be in the May.
It's not in.
It's
It's not in.
Open up that, that.
Yeah, so there's the,
Oh, that's August. No, you have to go
so
back.
April.
Or whatever. Yeah, May.
Valerie, is there a way to blanket mute everybody and then only selectively unmute? I've seen other folks use that in a meeting, and that's probably advisable at this time.
it's
What we used to do.
There's two chapter 13. Meeting material first day. Yeah, so you have those texts and then you have sheet questions.
Yeah, and I think. I think
I think that this one is here. It's the one
that was, yeah,
that you're. Is that the one in the application?
yeah. Yeah, that's the one that had the sports betting upon written request by the board.
Yes.
Yes,
And she.
That's the one that was proposed, Mel.
right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah, there's nothing that was new since then.
No, that's correct. It's just that, board member March has submitted something and for discussion. So
What is that? When did that come in?
that's in the Dropbox. That's been
Right.
there. So
Okay, well, Chief March, what is it?
Well, it's been a minute, but my interest was specifically, I believe you're gonna find it under subsection 2. Right. Number 5B2. And specifically shifting the responsibility for reviewing and deciding to remove or approve an individual who has self-excluded to be returned to the non-excluded list, if you will. After a person has petitioned the board, my recommendation is that the individual petition the director for removal and have that decision handled within the unit and not adjudicated, if you will, by the board. Are there questions about that shift in responsibility?
Well, it depends what we want to do. I think we always struggle with what are the criteria, right, for someone coming off. And I think we've taken sort of a stance of if you want to come off, you're coming off, right? So it's pretty subjective. The legislature has not provided guidance. So but we have turned, I think, one in recent history where there were sort of conflicting reports, and we turned it back. But I could go either way on that. It does bog us down sometimes with the requests. So
In my view, as long as it doesn't create an additional or undue risk to the integrity of the compliance process with which we're entrusted, I too have struggled with the voting on a voluntary exclusion and then reversing that decision. The board, I believe, certainly applauds and supports self-help around gambling behaviors that may be unhealthy. We want to be supportive in that regard. I find myself struggling to be responsible around deciding whether someone should or should not when this is a voluntary process. It seems unnecessarily bureaucratic to me to have it come to the board when it could be handled as, and perhaps more efficiently and as effectively by the executive director or by the director. And the director can, of course, bring forward conflicts or decisions to this board for as another level of review.
And Ms. Green, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would support that change. I personally don't believe we add as a board value to this process. It tends to be somewhat chaotic, and I think if it's returned to the department, more consistency can be introduced and certainly more efficiency. And so I support this change of moving it to the director and the department versus the board. With the caveat, I guess, if the director has any concerns and wants to, have the advice and consultation of the board, certainly would be willing to do that. But I think it should be moved off from the board.
Director Champion, any thoughts on this?
no, other than the fact that, we do all the preliminary work before it's presented to the board. This is a voluntary program, of course. And so as long as they meet the criteria of, which is stated in that paragraph, upon that exit, they have to do the exit interview through AdCare. And they have to have a written statement basically, but we haven't really established what the criteria of that written statement is, the request for removal. But I think that along with the exit interview, I know for a fact, Massachusetts does it the same way. They don't necessarily go through the board. They have to do the reinstatement interview, which we've initiated. So I think it would be very much similar to Massachusetts, and it would, yeah, not take up a whole lot of your time. One of the things I would have to have a conversation with the AAGs on is in making this decision, and I don't know why I would deny anyone other than the fact that, you know, they didn't do the exit interview and they didn't reach the criteria of timeframes, that in my decision to allow them to come back on, and that decision is currently made with a letter and some backup material in addition to what they do in the reinstatement, that I think, I think this is something that, if I want to, or if it's appropriate, we could put in that letter that they have the right to appeal my decision to the board if they'd like.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, if there was a denial, if there's a mechanism they could come to the board. I don't know if that's,
Yes, and if the board does want to add that language should be explicitly included in the rule, and we can draft something for your review. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit. Pardon me. But we're absolutely able to draft something that will create that appeal right for them and make that explicit in the rule.
yeah, I like that idea. Do you need us to vote on that, or can we direct you to make those changes and come back?
That is acceptable. You can just direct us to make those changes. I think I understand what process the board is requesting at this time, and you'll have an opportunity to look at whatever language and decide whether that meets your requirements.
Yeah, I see Lori has her hand up. If you can unmute Lori Manson. Hey,
Hi,
Lori.
just while we're on this topic, and I'm sorry if I've forgotten, but at one point there was a conversation that maybe one of the things that should be involved in approving a reinstatement request is checking with the casinos to be sure if that individual has been trying to, been caught trying to gamble over that period of time. Is that, I can't remember, is that written in, or is that gone by the wayside, or?
That, my understanding, it's not in the rules, but in the past, I've seen the reports when, the unit presents an individual coming off, it'll say, we had one recently, where
Right,
it said,
that's what made me think. So is that something that's happening each time with reinstatement? Because I feel like that's an important part of determining.
I think that's part of the background, but I don't know.
Thank you.
It should be added explicitly to the rule if you would like that to be part of the process. And we can also draft that language if you would like us to. So just
Yeah, I don't
let
know.
me know what the board prefers on that.
I'm not sure how to word it, but essentially if they've, something, if there's been attempts to gain access to the gaming floors or any other violations, I don't know. We'll have to wordsmith it, but I think certainly that would be something that, the director would take into account if they've been not following their exclusion, or whatever the period is.
And would there be any other criteria that the board would like the director to follow in making these decisions? Because that would be helpful to include any other conditions in this draft.
I don't know. Chief March or Joe, Ms. Green?
Could say you could add that the director will consider the written statement provided by the applicant, which I think we currently require.
Yes.
Yeah, the requirement now, as I understand, is just the interview and the statement.
Yep, and we can just make explicit consider the written statement, and we'll also consider whether the applicant has attempted to access either casinos during their self-exclusion period.
And I would agree with that. Just that further step of checking with our two casinos to see if there are any concerns or objections or points of fact that need to be considered in making for the unit's final decision.
Okay,
And
Any other-
these don't happen too often either, and I wouldn't want to say, one attempt in the 5-year period that they were on self-exclusion, they were found to be on the floor. But if it's excess and they're playing games with us and stuff like we've had a few, then I would just deny with a right to appeal. And then they can come before the board and explain to the board members why they did what they did and so forth and so on, so.
that's right. That's sort of how I envision this playing out, or maybe there's not. You feel like the letter is not enough information and you can go back and ask for more, deny it, they can appeal. So I think the vast majority of these are complete the steps,
Yes.
stamp it, approved, and go on. So it speeds up our meetings. So
Yeah, we might, top end, we might have 3 a year with
Yeah.
issues like this. So I don't see it as being a heavy lift.
okay. Any other comments or questions on this aspect before I go to another element of chapter 13? Okay.
Yeah, suggestions in your
Yeah.
draft.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yours.
It's my work. I know, but yeah, I don't know if I changed language. They did there.
Yeah, just everything's right.
It's me. Yep. Did I do that?
Yep.
Next one is, I'll invite your attention to, that same section, not number 2, but we're going to number 3. Under subsection D. Roman numeral 3, and then sub to that E. Acknowledgement that any self-excluded person violating the terms of his or their self-exclusion agreement, striking that entire section is part and parcel of this revised version of self-exclusion treatment. As you can read, you can all read that yourself there, and it's in the public document that the self-exclusion agreement during the self-excluded period may be subject to 1, conviction for criminal trespass, and or 2, placement by the board on the involuntary exclusion list as set out in section 5 of these regulations. That whole sentence would be deleted from the new version if approved. Does that prompt any questions from the board or anyone else so interested?
Is that? Were you proposing deleting that because it's redundant? Or because you don't think that those penalties should apply?
It is redundant.
Because it is redundant.
Yeah, because section 5 spells out, all of that. Different language, but okay.
And I don't think it's necessary to put in rule that a subject or may be subject to conviction for criminal trespass. I think that's up to the casinos themselves. So I just don't see it as being relevant to being placed here in this area either.
Okay.
And anybody can be placed on the involuntary list. So if I have an issue, I'll bring it to you and suggest that this person be put on the involuntary, and that's harder to get off of. That's strictly a board approved area. So.
All right. Chief Mark, any other?
And there are certain criteria they have to meet on the involuntary. I mean, I just can't come up with a reason for it. There's certain areas, so.
We got it.
Okay. Moving on to section 6, titled Duties of Licensed Slot Facilities and Casinos. Directing you to number 4 of that section. Letter B would be struck and deleted. Of course, modifying the new B, the new C would be the next 2 sections. as follows. A, once the former B would be deleted. And letter E, striking the words sportsbook operating in the casino or slot facility. In addition, under 6C, modifying to remove the final section, portion of that sentence, to remove and to notify the board or its designee of the breach. You can see modifying that to a new letter C, but then, of course, strike you can follow me on this. You can see it in the paperwork in front of you. Striking E, require the security and surveillance departments to immediately determine how the person was able to gain access to the premises without being detected, and how the casino or slot facility plans to prevent such breaches in the future, deleting that whole section from the duties and responsibilities of the casino. And number 8 as well, any casino or slot facility violating any requirements of this chapter may be subject to disciplinary action by the Gambling Control Board as part of the parcel of the previous deletions. Under section 6, is there any question, comment?
Quite
Regarding-
a few.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Well, I mean, this is part of the public comment we received, but why are we deleting 4B?
Yeah, so I think in this area here, the intention was that, I mean, this is pretty specific, right? Refuse access to the gaming floor. And there's been some discussion about IDing people, IDing everybody, and that sort of thing. And again, this all goes back to, this is a voluntary program. We're not talking about the involuntary guys now, the bad guys. We're talking about the voluntary. And so if folks sign up and, they want they want us to at least attempt to keep them out. And then again, by not refusing access, they do have interior steps in order to catch somebody, i.e. if you hit a jackpot, we get you there. If you walk up and you sign up for the Players Club card, we get you there. You do any type of financial transactions, that sort of thing. So there are internal areas of catching these folks who, again, have volunteered to not be there.
But
And so I just think that, in my position, or having to refuse access really puts a lot of burden on the facilities. And a lot of it, well, I won't say a lot, but some customers, like my age, don't necessarily want to get ID'd unless I want to feel like they think I'm younger. But aside from that, a lot of people or not a lot, but some people get discouraged with having to be, ID'd every time they go into a facility. So
I mean, there's other board members. I'm not going to support that. So, we've got the first line of 4, right? To the greatest extent practicable. So, if the facilities determine that they, if, the stat that was put out in one of the comments, it's 0.0 whatever 1%, then okay, then you make the decision. And if you got a lot of excluded people coming on the gaming floor, the board's going to deal with that. I think it's particularly ripe coming from the facility that not only checked the IDs, had the alerts come up on the monitor and were ignored. So I think the board has a duty to people, voluntary, involuntary. They've put themselves on an exclusion list, right? We offer a product that can have negative health consequences. And I think it's up to each facility to determine, to the greatest extent practicable, how to refuse access to the gaming floor. Certainly, if there's a violation brought to the board And it was, look, we had security there. This person, you know, snuck through, whatever it was. There were 100 people at one time. Okay, I think we'll take that into account. But you come in, you scan the ID, an alert comes up on the screen, you just ignore it. I don't think that should be let go, because that's how I read this. Because I know the attorney will come to the board and say, well, hold on. Nowhere in your rules does it say we have to refuse access. And nowhere in your rules does it say that we can be subject to disciplinary action. That's the argument I would make. So, you know, others can feel differently, but I think it's up to each facility to determine, all right, how do we stop these people from getting on the gaming floor? There might be a conclusion that it's easiest just to ID everybody, treat everyone the same. There might be others. Oh, we'll just do spot checks, and if the 0.01% holds true, then it's not a big deal. So I'm not going along with it, but I can be outvoted on that.
Well, I'd like to add that, in fact, B might be somewhat redundant in that A says that this rule will permit appropriate employees, namely of the casino, to identify and exclude persons when present in the casino or slot facility. For us to mandate that the word is implicit here, shall refuse or must refuse access, I prefer to leave that to the casino management to how to handle that customer who is on a voluntary self-exclusion list, and not have the board dictate to the casino how that they must refuse or have the customer subject to arrest, that clearly, if they are warned and then violate a criminal trespass warning. It goes one step farther than, in my view, than our board should be controlling that private corporation.
Yeah,
How they handle their customers.
our board isn't controlling them because they can determine how they want to do it. Our board is protecting the citizens of Maine who've put themselves on an exclusion list. So what you're doing, because whenever there's some violation brought, I know exactly the argument. Argument will be, your rules don't say we have to refuse them access. So you cannot punish us. That's what it'll be, and I'll vote for that. So Hollywood and Oxford, your attorneys are on, I can see that, make that argument. Because if that change goes through, that's what it's going to be. People put themselves on the list for a variety of reasons. And what you're doing here is, yeah, if you hit a jackpot, well, we'll find out, and you know, you're not going to get it, but you want to come to the casino 7 days a week and gamble a little bit, we're not going to do anything about it. Go ahead, Ms. Green.
Thank you. So I'm not quite sure where I come down on this yet, but Chief Morse, I just wanted to ask, because I know that you were talking about this in terms of the voluntary exclusion list, but in B, we're striking exclusion list, the involuntary list, or the board's exclusion list. So it looks like in B, we're saying that it doesn't matter what kind of, and I guess I'm just asking for your interpretation, but it looks like we're saying it doesn't matter how you got on the list, whether it was voluntary, involuntary, or the board, we're still not going to, you know, that we're still not going to put the impetus on the casino to refuse access to the floor. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yes, this revision would remove the requirement that they refuse access and leave it to it would, of course, leave it to the casino to decide whether they're going to allow someone or not.
No,
And
I understand that part. I understand that part, but you've been saying, you keep saying voluntary, but I think in this, we're also saying voluntary, involuntary, and the board's exclusion list.
Yes.
The current rule states in B, refuse access to the premises for any excluded person, period. The addition underlined, identified on the casino floor slot facilities exclusion list, meaning the legacy list they have, right? That we've identified, the involuntary list or the board's exclusion list. So there's basically 3 lists, but that was an addition to the original or to the current law or to the current rule. So the current rule merely states refuse access to the premises for any excluded person, period. And that's why we've been in a position that there's not an alternative there. Anytime a self-exclusion person wasn't refused access to the gaming floor, it was a violation of rules. And so that's why we're trying to we're trying to figure out a different way instead of, every time a self-excluded person gets on the floor, it's a violation. Now, again, I think in my opinion, the refuse access is really the issue here. Maybe we look at, in a particular position where if a person's found on the floor, they're removed from the floor immediately. Right? That would be an alternative to refusing access. Just as a recommendation for an alternative. Because if you look down, you'll see, deny cash, check cashing privileges, player club memberships, complimentary goods and services, all that sort of thing. So that's, utilize the player tracking system, electronics too, including checking all taxable, patron winnings and stuff like that. So there are interior procedures that would catch these people.
Well, with the
So-
exception of table games though, which I think we've talked about before, if you're playing a table game and you don't go to cash in your chips, you're not going to be caught. So you hand your chips to somebody else and you won't be caught at the table game.
No, typically, in my experience with table games, you'd have to know the person. You'd have to say, oh, yeah, that's Barry. He's a self-excluded person,
Right,
that type of thing.
That's my point, that we do have these other controls, but the exception to all those controls is the table game.
But table game people also utilize the player tracking system. They also, have player clubs
Not
membership.
necessarily.
Yeah, but they don't have to. You can just sit down at a table game, play your game, leave with your chips.
Oh, no, they don't. They don't. And I'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, self-excluded people are already on, they're already trying to get the benefits of the player club membership and all that stuff. And so when they're self-excluded, they're removed or there's at least an alert put on their membership. So that if they do come in and try to use it, then, that's when they're called inside.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've collectively lost our minds. So how we got here was we had a lifetime excluded person go gamble 22 times at one of our facilities. And then another 3 times where they presented the ID, it was scanned, it was alerted that they're excluded, and they were still allowed on. So we delete this section, that's what will happen.
It's Siri. Again, though, she shouldn't say it out loud if she's got something to say. Does she have to leave? Is that left? Okay. Chair Silver, I would just note that Board Member Green has had to leave. Her pre-existing
Yeah.
conflict has arisen, so.
Yeah, well, Joe Hanslip's here, so we've still got
Still.
4 here.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I would draft up 2 versions and we can take a vote on it next meeting.
And may I just propose the alternative to the existing version? What I think I've heard is remove self-excluded persons upon discovery. Is that consistent with the alternative language that's been proposed?
Yeah, except we heard from the facilities that they don't want to do that. They want to sit back and call the police. So.
Right, but I'm asking from a enforceable standpoint, what the board's preference is. Do they want to seek an enforcement mechanism that is asking the casinos to, when discovering a person who is self-excluded, to remove them, or to go with the existing proposal, which is to refuse access? And those are what I'm understanding as the alternatives. I just want to be able to draft up the language that you're requesting. That's my question are those the 2 alternatives, or are there 2 other, or is there something else that I should be including?
Leave that to Chief March.
certainly don't intend to water down either our authority or the authority of the casinos to act in support of the various versions of exclusion lists. I think that the language that the AAG has offered, I think answers my interest in this particular portion. And perhaps the rest of the board might find that acceptable. I do have a question. Have the casinos had the opportunity prior to this to weigh in on these suggested changes, and have there, Milton is indicating yes, and have there been any comment or reflection on these modifications?
Yeah, we got one response and I believe I put it in the Dropbox, and I believe there was also a potential board response.
Yeah, so my understanding, my understanding of the comment was a concern that the board was leaving the language ambiguous and seemed to have endorsed universal ID checking at its previous meeting. And a potential draft response consistent with the board's previous discussion would be to reject that comment and respond that during the consideration of what amendments to propose to Chapter 13, the board extensively discussed this issue and explicitly rejected the universal ID requirement in favor of the existing language. So I think that's, but there was one written comment submitted by Penn National, and the effect of it was current language continues to leave ambiguous, and the commenter seemed to think that the board had endorsed the universal ID policy, which is not consistent with the board's discussion as I understood it. But I think if the board is still considering language, I think we're probably going to go back to republication, so they will have another opportunity to comment on whatever language the board chooses to propose. And we can review that at the next meeting.
Yeah. And well, Chief Marks, did you have other?
No further. I think it probably should be tabled for further work.
Well, I want to hear from the AAGs about their comments involving the sports books and sports betting.
Sure. So our advice is to remove any reference to sports book or sports wagering in these rules, consistent with the separation of the statutory authority. The legislature has invested the executive director in his role solely as the executive director with authority over sports wagering, and has not granted any authority to the board over sports wagering, even when it takes place in a casino. And the example I'll give you is it's two separate licenses, like a casino's alcohol license. It's by a separate agency. It's a separate entity that is going to regulate that, and it is not within the board's statutory authority to require anything related to sports wagering at this time under the current legislative scheme. So we would strongly advise that be removed. We do not think it will pass form and legality review if it remains.
So let me ask this question, since it's relevant to the discussion we just had. If we tell the casinos to refuse access to a self-excluded person, but they can legally go ahead and walk right into the sports book.
So there is a separate exclusion list under
Okay,
sports
but-
wagering
right.
that's administered by the director.
But they're not on it because sports betting's new. They're placing their first bets. They're not on it. They're on the exclusion list for the casino, but not for the sports book. So that patron shows up. Let's say they've scanned the ID. It says, "Oh, you're excluded." Well, no, I'm not going to play slots. I'm going to place a sports bet. They can go do that.
Are you asking me if that would be acceptable? I think
Yeah.
it would depend on the physical setup at the casino. If
Yeah,
there's
I
any
think-
way for the casino to prevent them from accessing other parts of the casino, we're not. Because.
Yeah, I get the statutory separation. I think the legislature failed to think this one through. And that we're gonna have people who are mobile sports betting and may, exclude for whatever reasons on that. But those are prime candidates for marketing materials to come to the casinos. So yeah, I understand the change. I think we need to submit something to the VLA committee about this. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
I
I'm
would direct that suggestion to Director Champion.
Yeah, I'm looking at him. I just see all of you on one screen. So, logically it doesn't make sense. Oh, we're going to exclude you from playing slots, but come right in and bet on sports. I mean,
Should be all or none. Right.
and it's under the same roof, right? I mean, it's different, right? So it gets attenuated if you walk into an OTB, right? Because fine, but you're going into the casino. So in fact, if that may be the case, maybe we do go with Chief March's changes, because what can we do with excluded people? I don't know.
Well, and just so you know, I did put an agency bill in, and it's looking at a universal exclusion list. So that somebody in case having, obviously you don't want to be excluded from the bar, but you don't want to be excluded from the liquor store. So what I submitted was a request to put an umbrella under all gambling in the state of Maine, to where somebody, when they self-exclude, will have one list, self-exclude, and then they can check off the box. It can be casino, sports wagering, fantasy, charitable, anything gambling related. And then, all that could fall under the board, or, it depends on how it's going to go through the committee and so forth and so on. So I'll be working that here in the next session.
And I understand the AAGs might not have an answer to this question, but I'm curious because I know that we have in the past had incidents that involved alcohol, but those individual licensees, there was discipline brought or recommended or brought before the board, and those were separate. I guess I'm wondering if
So if I could address that, yeah. So I think we have presented cases that have had both an alcohol component and a minor accessing the gaming floor component. You'll probably recall that we handled that this year. And the recommendation was consistent with the separation of the statutory authority, that the alcohol issue be handled by BABLO, and that the board only address the portion that was under the board's statutory authority, which was the minor gaining access to the gaming floor. So that no discipline was sought from this board related to the alcohol violation.
Yeah, I guess I just wonder if there's a physical sports book employee at one of the casinos that violates whatever sports wagering rule, that then they can still go ahead and work in the casino. They can't work in the sports book. I don't know how that will work.
Well, that's, in my view, there's a consideration for a combo license, we're calling it. And that's if, under the statute, if a current casino employee, say like a cashier, is also a cashier at the sports book, then that person would get a combo license at no extra fee, that sort of thing. In fact, it's a one-page application just identifying that you're currently licensed as a casino employee. Now, if they do a violation on the sports wagering side, then that would fall under the Department of the Executive Director. If they do it on anything on violation on the casino side, then obviously that would be under the purview of the board.
What a state. Okay.
Well, trust
Yeah,
me, it's confusing in other states. Don't feel bad.
Yeah, no, we had 35 other examples to pick from, and we decided to go in our own way. So be it. All right. I mean, I think that makes sense based on, what you're recommending about removing the sports book and sports wagering language. If the legislature wants to act, they can act. So I think really what I'm anticipating are maybe two versions, one with Chief March changes and one without. We can discuss and decide which one will then which one will publish for comment again, right?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
and you can vote up or down on both alternatives and then pick which one you're gonna publish for comment.
All right, any other questions or comments on this? Okay. Well, thank you. I think that was helpful. All right. So if we're ready, we can move on. We have quite a lot of license applications for review, partly because we skipped a month, and I didn't want to wait until September, so that's why part of the reason we got in this month. We're going to be reviewing with 1 to 5 applications for a couple different licenses. I'll say at the outset, these are not adjudicatory proceedings. Instead, we'll be receiving an opinion from board staff supported by evidence obtained during an investigation. We will also provide the applicant with an opportunity to be heard. And finally, the public will also be invited to participate, and time will be allotted for comment. So the first applicant seeking a license, and Milt, the agenda says table, this is for United States Playing Card. The agenda says table games distributor, but the application said gambling services vendor.
Oh, typo on my part.
Okay.
Which
So-
type of applicant is it?
It's a gambling service vendor.
Yeah, and that's the fee they paid, so.
Right.
Okay, all right, so it's for a gambling services vendor pursuant to 8 MRSA section 1001 at sec. This is United States Playing Card. Anyone here representing the applicant? I don't think so. All right, so before we proceed, I assume one of the AAGs has a few questions for us.
Sure, I can take it. Does any member of the board have any reason such as personal bias or conflict of interest that would prevent him or her from rendering an impartial decision in this matter? Seeing none, does any other person present at the hearing believe that there is any reason that would prevent any board member from rendering an impartial decision in this matter? If so, please, raise your virtual hand, state your objection and basis for that objection. Seeing none, if there are objections to any pre-hearing proceedings, that is the procedure of this case up to this point, please stand, state your name for the record, and state the objection, the basis for that objection, or use the raise hand function.
Got it.
All right, seeing none, you may proceed.
All right, and for all of these, hopefully it's okay if I can say this once, but board members have briefing papers based on materials the board staff is relying upon to support its opinion. Those papers will become part of the record. The complete investigation has been made available for inspection by the board. Mass copies of the complete investigation are not available for public distribution at this time, as much of the material is confidential. Any person would like a copy of the public portions of the briefing papers for all 5 of these applicants, please speak with Milton Champion, our executive director. He'll arrange to have those provided to you. During deliberations, the board may be required to go into executive session to discuss confidential portions of the record. All other materials will be discussed in public. Any other evidence, such as conclusions of the board staff, information provided today by board staff, statements made, or documents provided to the applicant in public comment will also become part of the record. But that's going to apply to all of these. I don't have to say that each time. So I don't think there's anyone here from the applicant, correct? All right. Is Detective Armstrong on? Yep,
Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Can anyone hear me?
there you go. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, I'll be reading all three of these renewals, just so you know. All right, pursuant to Title 8, Section 1005, subsection 2 of the Maine Revised Statutes, the Department of Public Safety is responsible for investigating the qualification of each applicant before a license or registration is issued and reporting to the board the results of any such investigation. Ms. Stephanie Crummert, Compliance Manager of the United States Playing Card Company, applied for renewal of the company's gambling service vendor license on March 6, 2023. The company disclosed, and it was verified, that since the company's last application for a board license, there have been no changes to the company's address. There have been no changes to the key executives of the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company. There have been changes to the ownership structure of the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company. There had been adverse actions taken against the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company by any other regulatory agencies, and there are no charges pending against the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company in any state or federal court. The company submitted its federal and state tax returns for 2021 and 2022. Those financial documents and other documents were supplied to our financial review contractor, Whitfly. Whitfly reported that the company, the United States Playing Card Company, appears to have sufficient financial assets to meet any financial obligations imposed by the board. Additionally, the key executives for the United States Playing Card Company were found to have demonstrated financial responsibility as defined by the rules governing the board. The department has investigated the qualifications of the United States Playing Card Company and has determined that it meets the board's requirements for renewal of its gambling service vendor license. Specifically, the United States Playing Card Company and its principals continue to meet the qualifications for a license set out in Title 8, Section 1016 and 1019, and meets the requirements of Board Rules, Chapter 2, Section 5. Therefore, after my verification of the documents submitted, interviews or inquiries, financial review by Whitfly, and a final review by Director Champion, it is the opinion of the department that the United States Playing Card Company is suitable to be continually licensed as a gambling service vendor in the state of Maine.
All right. Thank you, Detective Armstrong. Any questions for Detective Armstrong? All right, hearing none. Anything from Director Champion?
No, sir.
All right. Any public comment? All right. Is there a motion on the application of the United States Playing Card Company for renewal licensure as a gambling services vendor?
So moved, March. To approve, yeah.
I'll second it. Any deliberation, questions from the board? Hearing none, let's take a vote. This is to approve United States Playing Card Company for renewal of their license as a gambling services vendor. Mr. Hanslip.
Aye.
Chief March.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. So, having met all the requirements of licensing pursuant to Title 8, Chapter 31, the United States Playing Card Company will be licensed as a gambling services vendor in the state of Maine. Of course, we thank them for their continued desire to do business in Maine. Moving to B, 6B. This is a renewal of a table game distributor license for AGS LLC. Is there anyone here from the applicant? All right, seeing none. Philip, do you have questions for us?
Yes, I do. Does any member of the board have any reason, such as personal bias or conflict of interest, that would prevent him or her from rendering an impartial decision in this matter? Seeing none. Does any other person present at the hearing believe that there is any reason that would prevent any board member from rendering an impartial decision in this matter? If so, mute yourself, state your objection, the basis for that objection. Hearing none. If there are objections to any pre-hearing proceedings, that is the procedure of this case up to this point, please stand or rather raise your virtual hand, state your name for the record and state the objection and the basis of that objection. Seeing and hearing none, you may proceed.
Okay. All right. No one here from AGS. So we'll go back to Detective Armstrong.
Pursuant to Title 8, Section 1005, subsection 2 of the Maine Revised Statutes, Department of Public Safety is responsible for investigating the qualifications of each applicant before a license or registration is issued and reporting to the board the results of any such investigation. Ms. Megan Rozo, Licensing Specialist 2, AGS LLC, applied for renewal of the company's table game distributor's license on March 28, 2023. The company disclosed, and it was verified, that since the company's last application for a board license, there have been no changes to the company's address. There have been changes to the key executives of the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company. There have been changes to the ownership structure of the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company. There have been adverse actions taken against the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company by any other regulatory agencies, and there are charges pending against the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates, the company, in any state or federal court. The company submitted its federal and state tax returns for the preceding year, 2021 and 2022. Those financial documents and other documents as required were supplied to our financial review contractor, Whitfly. Whitfly reported that the company AGS LLC appears to have sufficient financial assets to meet any financial obligations imposed by the board. Additionally, the key executives for AGS LLC were found to have demonstrated financial responsibility as defined by the rules governing the board. The department has investigated the qualifications of AGS LLC and has determined that it meets the board's requirements for renewal of its table games distributor license. Specifically, AGS LLC and its principals continue to meet the qualifications for a license set out in Title 8, Sections 1016 and 1019, and meets the requirements of Board Rules, Chapter 2, Section 4. Therefore, after my verification of the documents submitted, interviews or inquiries, the financial review by Whitfly, and the final review by Director Champion, it is the opinion of the department that AGS LLC is suitable to be continually licensed as a table games distributor in the state of Maine.
Thank you. Any questions for Detective Armstrong? All right. Anything else to add, Director Champion?
No, sir.
Okay. Any public comment on this application? All right, hearing none, seeing none. Is there a motion on the application of AGS LLC for renewal licensure as a table game distributor? Someone want to make that motion?
Joe, are you making that motion to approve?
Yes.
Then I'll
Okay.
second that, March.
All right, any discussion? All right, let's take a vote. Mr. Hanslett,
Yes.
Chief March,
Aye.
I am in favor as well, having met all the requirements of licensing pursuant to Title 8, Chapter 31. AGS LLC will have their license renewed as a table game distributor in the state of Maine. Moving along to 6C. Let me pull that up. And this is another renewal application as a table game distributor from Light and Wonder Gaming. Well, I guess the company name LNW Gaming Inc. That's the name on the application. Anyone here from the applicant? Okay, looks like we do have account manager here. Before we proceed, I believe Philip has some questions for us.
Correct. Does any member of the board have any reason such as personal bias or a conflict of interest that prevent him or her from rendering a partial decision in this matter? Seeing none. Does any other person present at the hearing believe that there is any reason to prevent any board member rendering a partial decision in this matter? Please, if so, please unmute yourself and state your objection and the basis for that objection. Hearing none. If there are objections to any pre-hearing proceedings, that is the procedure of this case at this point, please unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and state the objection and the basis for that objection. Seeing and hearing none, you may proceed.
Okay, Mr. Smith, anything you want to add on behalf of LNW? Okay, no comments. Got it.
Here
All right.
on behalf of the new
Oh.
business for table games with Oxford Casino, they asked me to join on for that portion of it. So on this.
Got it. Okay, no problem. Unless any board member has a question for Mr. Smith. All right, hearing none. Let's go back to Detective Armstrong.
Pursuant to Title 8, Section 1005, subsection 2 of the Maine Revised Statute, the Department of Public Safety is responsible for investigating the qualifications of each applicant before a license or registration is issued and reporting to the board the results of any such investigation. Ms. Darlene Robinson, licensing analyst, LNW Gaming, Inc., applied for renewal of the company's table game distributor's license on April 12th, 2023. The company's disclosed it was verified that since the company's last application for a board license, there have been no changes to the company's address. There have been changes to the key executives of the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company. There have been changes to the ownership structure of the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company. There have been adverse actions taken against the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company by any other regulatory agencies. And there are charges pending against the company or any parent or intermediate affiliates of the company in any state or federal court. The company submitted its federal and state tax returns for 2021 and the 9 months ending September 30th, 2022. Those financial documents and other documents as required were supplied to our financial review contractor, Whitfly. Whitfly reported that the company and LNW Gaming, Inc. appears to have sufficient financial assets to meet any financial obligations imposed by the board. Additionally, the key executives for LNW Gaming, Inc. were found to have demonstrated financial responsibility as defined by the rules governing the board. The department has investigated the qualifications of LNW Gaming, Inc. and has determined it meets the board's requirements for renewal of its table games distributor's license. Specifically, LNW Gaming, Inc. and its principals continue to meet the qualifications for a license set out in Title 8, Sections 1016 and 1019, and meets the requirements of Board Rules, Chapter 2, Section 4. Therefore, after my verification of the documents submitted, interviews or inquiries, the financial review by Whitfly and the final review by Director Champion, in its opinion of the department that LNW Gaming, Inc. is suitable to be continually licensed as a table games distributor in the state of Maine.
Thank you. Any questions for Detective Armstrong? Okay. Anything else to add, Director Champion?
No, sir.
Okay, any public comment on this application? All right, hearing none. Is there a motion on the application of Light and Wonder or LNW for renewal licensure as table games distributor?
So moved, Hanslip.
I'll second it.
March. Okay.
Any questions, comments, discussions? All right, let's take a vote. Mr. Hanslip,
Aye.
Chief March,
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Having met all the requirements of licensing pursuant to Title 8, Chapter 31, Light and Wonder Gaming or LNW will be licensed as a table game distributor in the state of Maine. So switching gears, we have a couple initial license applications. Pull that up. All right, and so the first one is for licensure as a gambling services vendor. And Milt, this is not unique to them, but still want to try to get everybody on the new forms. And I know it depends on, when they actually submit these, but this one's using a 2021 form. So I don't know if we can pull those from the site or what, but
Yeah, I believe that's the last edition. And let me comment on this too. If we've done any type of form changes or application changes, they are not changes to the questions. It's really the format. We did change the business entity instead of checking off if you've had, an address change or something like that. We changed it to them answering yes or no. So nothing that we've done to the application or to the form has changed, added, or deleted any questions, just as an FYI. But
Yeah.
we will try to use them. And again, you're exactly right, Chair Silver, it's when they submit it. So, but I don't believe the last comments, I believe board member Siri Green made, Mallory and I went back to check and we verified that they are in fact the latest edition.
okay. Got it. All right, so as I said, the applicant seeking an initial license as a gambling service vendor is Surveillance Systems Integration, Inc. Is there anyone here representing the applicant? All right.
Yes.
Mallory.
Yes,
There is, she's, Mallory's unmuting.
they need to make themselves known. I don't know.
I believe it would be Mr. Flowers.
Okay.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Before we proceed, I don't know, Philip, you have questions for us?
Yeah, does any member of the board have any reasons such as personal bias or conflict of interest that would prevent him or her from rendering a partial decision in this matter? Hearing none, does any other person present at the hearing believe that there is any reason that would prevent any board member from rendering a partial decision in this matter? Please, if so, please unmute yourself and state the objection, the basis for that objection. Seeing and hearing none, if there are objections to any pre-hearing proceedings, that is the procedure of this case up to this point. Please unmute yourself, state your name for the record, and state the objection and the basis for that objection. Being none, you may proceed.
Okay, I think we do have someone from the applicant. I don't know if they're unmuted.
Yes, I am.
Okay, Mr. Flowers, yeah, anything you want to say to the board?
Yeah, good morning. I put together a short PowerPoint. I know everybody loves PowerPoints. After seeing the flow of this meeting, I'm not sure that you want me to do that. It does give a little history of the company and what we do. Is that something you want to see, or how would you like me to handle this?
Yeah, I think we're interested in generally what you're doing or what you're going to be offering in the state.
Perfect. I think it's Mallory in control. If we can go to the next slide, that would be great. And I'll promise to keep it short and sweet. So my name is Todd Flowers. I'm the president and founder of Surveillance Systems, Inc. We go by SSI, a lot easier to say. We've been around since 2002. Really founded the company to provide products, design, installation services to surveillance and security departments for casinos, although we have other customers in other verticals. We've been doing this now for 21 years. We have quite a track record. We hold, I think, over 100 licenses now. We've never been rejected a license. We're in good standing with every single one of those companies. Next slide, please. So a little breakdown of the management of SSI. Like I said, I'm the president. Melissa Mount, a vice president, has been here since 2002. Greg Stowers is our director of engineering that brings almost 40 plus years of experience. Adam Merritt, director of field services, handles all of our installation and resources at the site. He would be definitely the one providing whatever talent required in Maine. So Adam would be that guy. We're based out of Las Vegas. Initially, it was Northern California with just a few properties here, and we've been lucky enough to find our way across the entire United States. We have done business in the Bahamas. We're licensed in Canada. And next slide, please. I believe this slide will just give you a snapshot of who we're doing business with. We are the primary integrator for all of MGM nationwide. We are the primary integrator for all of Caesars nationwide. We have done business with Native American properties in and out of the US and Canada. We are, we're well-versed in what we do. Specifically, we design the video surveillance and recording systems, the networks. We design and install the access control. Anything security and surveillance related is what we do. Next slide, please. A little bit of how we handle the process for installation and design. We are very interactive with the customer. Ultimately, we want the customer to be a big part of what we do. So we see this as a real partnership. Our motto for the company is we provide the best possible customer experience. We have never left a customer hanging. We have never, we've never been kicked off a property. We've never had disciplinary action put against us. I think one time in 22 years, we had a subcontractor not get badged properly in the state of Indiana, and that caused a bit of a challenge there that was solved immediately. That's been it for us. So we are on site, we work with a team, we consult, we provide pre-bid drawings, we have weekly calls with the clients during any type of installation. We're on site. SSI is always there managing the process. We do not leave it to subcontractors. And we really look to build long-term relationships. Many of our customers we've been dealing with for 20 years, including, like I said, Caesars and MGM. These are 15, 20-year-old relationships. And I bring that up only not the name drop, but because the level of consistency that we have to bring to the table over that period of time, it does say something about our ability to perform. And that's all I have. I mean, I don't want to kill you with details, but I'm open for questions. I didn't know exactly what you were looking for, so I didn't want to put you all to sleep with PowerPoint, but I'm certainly open for questions if that's where we'd like to go next.
Thank you. Any questions for the board, from the board? I also noted that there's some ownership in Maine, which is nice to see. Okay. Who's handling, is this Detective Armstrong?
No, sir, I'll take these.
Okay.
The initials. I'll always handle the initials, and Detective Armstrong will handle the renewals. So pursuant to Title 8, Section 1005, subsection 2 of the Maine Revised Statutes, the Department of Public Safety is responsible for investigating qualifications of each applicant before a license or registration is issued and reporting to the board the results of any such investigation. Mr. Michael Flowers, president, and I got that wrong, I believe, Todd.
No, Michael's my first name. Todd is my middle name. My parents played that dirty game when I was a kid, but same guy.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, Mr. Michael Flowers, from the application, the president of Surveillance Systems Integration Incorporated applied for an initial gambling service vendor license on May 30th, 2023. They disclosed in their application was evaluated by whether the applicant satisfies the criteria outlined in Title 8, Chapter 31. The extent to which, if any, the applicant would be subject to control or influence of its activities by any person having a financial interest pertaining to the applicant, including a mortgage or other lien against property of the applicant, or in the opinion of the board, might otherwise influence its activities. In such case, the director shall consider the character, honesty, integrity of whoever has the ability to control or influence the activities of the applicant. The degree to which the applicant has demonstrated its ability to finance the proposed gambling service vendor operations, as well as the source of such financing, the degree to which the applicant has supplied accurate and complete information pursuant to requirements of this rule, the extent to which the applicant has cooperated with the board and department in connection with the background investigation, whether the person or any of its officers, directors, partners, owners, key executives, or gambling service vendor employees are known to associate with persons of nefarious backgrounds or disreputable character. With respect to any past conduct which may adversely reflect upon the applicant, the nature of the conduct, the time that has passed since the conduct, the frequency of the conduct, and any extenuating circumstances that affect or reduce the impact of the conduct or otherwise reflect upon the applicant's fitness for licensure. Any other information before the director, including substantially similar background investigations performed by other agencies or jurisdictions that relate to the applicant's competency, financial capability, honesty, integrity, reputation, habits, or associations. Federal and state tax returns for 2021 and 2022 were submitted. Those financial documents and other documents as required were supplied to our financial review contractor, Whitfly. Whitfly reported that the company Surveillance Systems Integration Incorporated appears to have sufficient financial assets to meet any financial obligations imposed by the board. Additionally, the key executives of Surveillance Systems Integration Incorporated have found to have demonstrated financial responsibility as defined by regulations governing the board. Surveillance Systems Integration, Inc. and its principals meet the qualifications of Title 8, Section 1016, numbers 1-A and 2, and Section 1019. Surveillance System Integration, Inc. also meets the requirements of Board Rule Chapter 2, Section 5(7). Surveillance System Integration, Inc. shall be licensed as required under Title 8, Section 1014(2), which states the board may issue a gambling service vendor license to an applicant that meets the qualifications set out in Sections 1016 and 1019. Therefore, after verification of the documents submitted and interviews or inquiries by Detective Armstrong and the financial review by Whitfly, it is the opinion of the department that Surveillance Systems Integration, Inc. is suitable to be licensed as a gambling service vendor in the state of Maine.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Champion? Okay. I looked at your Las Vegas branch location. It was a few streets over from where I used to live. So that may be my only bias. Any public comment on this application? All right. Hearing none, seeing one. Is there a motion on the application of SSI or Surveillance Systems, Inc. For licensure as a gambling service vendor?
Move to approve, March.
All right, I will second that. Any discussion or questions? Joe has his hand up. Probably needs to be unmuted.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, any questions, or you're just getting unmuted?
Just needed to get unmuted.
Got it. All right, well, let's take a vote then. Mr. Hansup, start with you.
Yay.
Chief March.
Aye.
And I as well. So that's 3-0, having met all the requirements of licensing pursuant to Title 8, Chapter 31. Surveillance Systems, Inc. Will be licensed as a gambling services vendor in the state of Maine, and we thank you for your desire to do business in Maine.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thanks for getting up early from the West Coast for this. All right, last one of our licenses. This is a initial license application for a table game distributor license from Interblock Gaming. Is there anyone here representing the applicant?
Hello,
Hello, good morning.
good morning. My name is
Okay.
Nicole Forte. I am the Senior Compliance Manager for Interblock. And we
Hey,
also have, I believe, Celine Aragon. She is our VP of Legal. Celine, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Great. We will come back to you in a minute. So before we proceed, Assistant Attorney General Philip Mantis, do you have questions for us?
So do. Does any member of the board have any reason such as personal bias or conflict of interest that would prevent him or her from rendering a partial decision in this matter? Seeing and hearing none. Does any other person present at the hearing believe that there is any reason that would prevent any board member from rendering a partial decision in this matter? So unmute yourself, state your name for the record, state your objection and the basis for that objection. Seeing and hearing none, if there are objections to any pre-hearing proceedings, that is the procedure of this case at this point, please unmute yourself, state your name for the record, state the objection and the basis for that objection. Seeing and hearing none, you may proceed.
Okay. If either of the representatives from Interblock have anything to present to the board, now's the time.
We have submitted our PowerPoint. Here we go. I'm open to any questions that may come from you. We didn't have a presence in the state of Maine, but we have been licensed in more than 200 jurisdictions. And this is for the acquisition of Aruze Gaming America products, which is currently in Maine, Hollywood Bangor Casino. If we can proceed with the PowerPoint. Okay, this is me. I'm the VP of Legal here at Interblock Gaming. I'm responsible for day-to-day legal operations for the company. Nicole Forte is our compliance senior manager. She's responsible for all licensing. So Aruze Gaming America filed for Chapter 11 around February 2023. And we were one of the successful bidders in the 363 sale proceeding, as well as another buyer, which is Empire, who purchased the slot machines from Aruze Gaming. So we can summarize it as Interblock Gaming purchased Aruze Gaming's ETG machines and associated intellectual property rights. We can go to the other slide, please. Thank you. And the court hearing was conducted yesterday. Today, we are expecting to close and finalize this asset purchase agreement. And we are going to provide all the services. Our technicians are equipped with already Aruze background and training. We have also hired several Aruze field service technicians, as well as several engineers that is going to help us improve their products and continue their legacy. So this is the Aruze Gaming company organization chart, which is not related, but we just put it for your reference so that you have an idea. We haven't purchased any entities. We only purchased the install base. Thank you. These are our gaming machines. 2015 started with the standalone products, and then 2017 we have expanded our reach with the stadium and Pulse Arena products, and 2019 to current our universal cabinets, and today we released the Smart Pit, and also we are integrating Aruze products. These are the current installed base that we are acquiring from the Arusa purchase. Arusa has Roll to Win Craps, Shoot to Win Craps, Shoot to Win Craps Legacy, and new versions, Lucky Roulette, Dragon Sick Ball, Super Big Wheel, X-Station Big Wheel. So that's all. I'm here to answer any of your questions.
And I don't know if you know the answer, and maybe Milt does, but wasn't Arusa a licensee in Maine?
Correct, they should be.
All right.
Yes.
And does the do the financial losses in 2022, is that related to the purchase, or is that different?
Arusa's financial losses?
No, Interblocks.
Not necessarily, not necessarily. We really, so let's put it this way, Arusa was our competitor. They were our competitors. So it's a great addition to Interblock family. We are expanding, and this is not related to financial losses, should I say. It's purely a business move on our end to expand our reach.
Got it. All right, any board members have any questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none, thank you. I always find the presentations helpful. We can get a better sense of what you're offering. We will turn to Director Champion.
Okay, pursuant to Title 8, Section 1005, subsection 2 of the Maine Revised Statute, the Department of Public Safety is responsible for investigating the qualifications of each applicant before a license and registration is issued and reporting to the board the results of any such investigation. This is Nicole Forte, Senior Licensing Manager Compliance for Interblock USA LC, applied for an initial table game distributor license on May 11th, 2023. They disclosed in their application was evaluated by whether the applicant satisfies the criteria outlined in Title 8, Chapter 31, Section 1016, the extent to which, if any, the applicant would be subject to control or influence of its activities by any person having a financial interest pertaining to the applicant, including a mortgage or other lien against property of the applicant, or who, in the opinion of the board, might otherwise influence its activities. In such case, the director shall consider the character, honesty, integrity of whoever has the ability to control or influence the activities of the applicant. The degree to which the applicant has demonstrated its ability to finance the proposed table game distributor, as well as the source of such financing. The degree to which the applicant has supplied accurate and complete information pursuant to the requirements of this rule. The extent to which the applicant has cooperated with the board and department in connection with the background investigation, whether the person or any of its officers, directors, partners, owners, key executives, or table game distributor employees are known to associate with persons of nefarious backgrounds or disruptible character. With respect to any past conduct which may adversely reflect upon the applicant, the nature of the conduct, the time that has passed since the conduct, the frequency of the conduct, and any extenuating circumstances that affect or reduce the impact of conduct or otherwise reflect upon the applicant's fitness for the license. Any other information before the director, including substantially similar background investigations performed by other agencies or jurisdictions that relate to the applicant's competency, financial capability, honesty, integrity, reputation, habits, or associations. Audited financial and state tax returns for 2021 and 2022 were submitted. Those financial documents, other documents as required, were supplied to our financial review contractor, Whitfly. Whitfly reported that the company Interblock USA LLC appears to have sufficient financial assets to meet any financial obligations imposed by the board. Additionally, the key executives for Interblock USA LLC found to have demonstrated financial responsibilities as defined by regulations governing the board. Interblock USA LLC and its principals continue to meet the qualifications of Title 8, Section 1016, numbers 1, 1A, and 2 in Section 1019. Interblock USA LLC also meets the requirements of Board Rule Chapter 2, Section 4, Parent 7. Interblock USA LC shall be licensed as required under Title 8, Section 1013-A for N2, which states the board may issue to distribute table games to an applicant that meets the qualifications set out in sections 1016 and 1019. Therefore, after verification of the documents submitted, interviews and inquiries by Detective Armstrong, and the financial review by Whitfly, it's the opinion of the department that Interblock USA LC is suitable to be licensed as a table game distributor in the state of Maine.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Champion? All right. Any public comment on this application? All right. Hearing none, seeing none. Is there a motion on the application of Interblock USA LC or LLC? Is it L?
LC.
Application.
LC.
Okay. For licensure as a table game distributor. Go ahead, Mr. Hansel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Mr. Champion. Earlier on in the presentation regarding this license, there was mention of a bankruptcy procedure, and I was having difficulty hearing everything in the presentation, but there was mention of a bankruptcy, and I believe they were waiting to hear an answer or a response to a component of it. Should we be going forward with this without being certain one way or the other?
Well, it wasn't their bankruptcy. It was the bankruptcy of a competitor that they're purchasing.
I understand that, but if for some reason the authorization to sell is not approved, well,
I would
okay.
ask, I would ask Leon to comment on that. This was a strategic matter. I've been in conference with the folks at Interblock because right now there is one roll to win crap game in the state of Maine, and that's at Bangor Hollywood. And they had a contract, a leasing contract, I believe. And so when I was contacted about the acquisition, I had to strategically look at, and we didn't expedite the investigation in any way, but I had to strategically look at when that transaction was going to take place, because they had to change the contracts over from Aruze to Interblock in order for them to keep the table game operating at Hollywood. So this is really, we've been in constant contact with them the whole time. So if Celine had any comments to the bankruptcy, I'd be fine.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate all the background you have provided. Just for the record, the hearing conducted yesterday, there is no oppositions, there is no issues. I can confidently say that today the judge is going to enter the decision, and we are going to move forward with everything that we are prepared for this acquisition. So there's no question marks on our end.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Good question. Any other questions? All right. So I guess I'll go back to any public comment. All right, hearing none, seeing none. Is there a motion on the application of Interblock USA LC for licensure as a table game distributor?
So moved, Hanslet.
I will second that. Any discussion from the board? All right, hearing none. Let's take a roll call vote. Mr. Hanslet,
Aye.
Chief March.
Aye.
I'm an I as well. So having met all the requirements of licensing pursuant to Title 8, Chapter 31, Interblock USA LC will be licensed as a table games distributor in the state of Maine. And thank you for your presentation and thank you for your desire to do business in Maine. Before we get into table games, we take a 5-minute break. We've been going for 2 hours. Is that okay with you all?
So moved.
Yes.
All right, let's say, well, let's just call it 11:05. We'll be back on to finish up. All right.
Amanda, you're very patient.
I'm very patient.
Patient to listen through all of this.
That's equivalent to CFEs, isn't it?
What?
It's equivalent to CFE.
This.
All right. Under new business 8A, we have a table game discussion. I don't know who's kicking this off.
I'm going to defer to Vicky Gardner, our inspector supervisor, only because there was just some, we needed some clarification on additional table games that were just used for training and so forth. So, but I'll let Vicky explain the scenario.
Sorry about that. I apologize. I'm a little bit caught off guard, so I don't know the exact rules. Maybe the AAGs can help me out on that. In the past, table games were brought into the state in 2012. And in the past, we've always allowed the casinos to swap their licenses out because they buy a license for 20 years. And past practices have been once a license is swapped, the unused table is transferred out of the state of Maine, or oftentimes they're obsolete and no longer functioning. And so recently we had a discussion with one of the casinos about these tables, and they want to retain the tables for possible future use. The issue is that the license, they're no longer licensed. And so at that point, it becomes an interpretation of what the law requires, whether it requires them to be licensed while in the state of Maine. Phil, you could jump in here at any point.
Thank you so much, Vicky. But yeah, I think that's a good tee off. This is actually a discussion that was presented to the board last year as well, pursuant to a different issue. This regards section 1018 in the fees that are associated with tables and table game positions. I believe in the meeting materials, board members do have a copy of the relevant statute. Along with that is a memo of understanding that I assume was presented to Oxford Casino and Hollywood Casino. Is dated July 8, 2022. That memo of understanding captures the advice that was provided to the unit regarding how the fee should apply. Our reading of it is that the fee should apply to table positions and not necessarily to the amount of tables, including tables that are not currently in use on the floor. So happy to answer any further questions that board members may have.
So I guess what's the dispute? Or is there no dispute and you're looking for clarification?
I don't want to speak for Vicky, but I believe the dispute is, is there concern, or it seems to be maybe concern regarding, or on the part of the inspectors of these cache of tables that are not in use, and whether that would cause concern. I don't see the situation causing us to deviate from our prior guidance regarding the interpretation of 1018, which is that the table fees run the positions rather than the actual physical tables.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we, decide or came to the conclusion, I think last year, and that's how I see it. I suppose if one of these tables that's not in use, they want to bring it back in, then if there's an empty position, great. If not, then it's got to swap for something that's using that position.
That's correct. And it would be out of compliance, obviously, if they used a table that's unlicensed, as a new position.
Right, so you'd have to, so if you essentially decommission the table, let's call it, you'd have to get it back approved. So I don't know, Vicky, what's your concern with these
I guess
tables?
The concern is that we no longer have a tracking mechanism in which to track those tables. In the past, as I explained, they were either shipped to another facility outside of the state of Maine. They were used for training, but in this case, there's 3 of the tables, or they were destroyed. They've never sat here without a license attached to them, because without a license, we can't track them. There's no compliance requirement. There's nothing. They're just tables that are sitting.
Okay. So once they take it out, are they're just no longer paying the annual license fee? That's the problem. Like, so if they paid the $1,000, kept a license on it, but it's not in use.
Yeah, they don't pay anything because it's no longer a position. They have no fee attachment required by statute. And because it's no longer under a fee, it's no longer required to be, it's just a table that's being held at the casino. There's no compliance requirement. There's only compliance requirements with licensed positions and licensed tables. And I guess we're away from our past practices.
So couldn't they license the table? Just not you have the set number of positions, but the annual, you pay your annual fee and it's in storage, so to speak. You know where it is.
There's no statute requirement. I guess you could try to get, I don't know. I guess I don't know what the solution is.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how big of a problem this is. So. Go ahead, Milt.
So let's just take it for instance. So if Hollywood Casino has 18 positions on the floor, right? So they can have up to 18 table games, no matter what the game theme is, okay? If they bring in 6 new tables and they put them on the floor, as long as they stay to that total of 18, they're good to go. Problem, I think that Vicky's inquiring about is now they're putting the ones that were replaced into storage. Now through slot machines, they continually to pay, as I understand, they continue to pay whether they're in storage or on the floor. So that's not been the case to this point with regards to table games. And so naturally, this is a board needing board approval as to whether or not you want us to continue to have our seal on the table game. And then irregardless of whether it's in storage or on the floor, they're at least going to pay the $100 registration or renewal fee each year. Right?
Yeah, So that seems to me, if the table is gonna remain in Maine, right? And could potentially be put back into use, wouldn't it make sense for them to pay the $100 every year and?
Well, and I believe in some cases they even use parts. I don't know what parts, I see Austin, jumping on, maybe he can.
Yeah, Austin, what am I missing here?
So we'd be perfectly fine to pay the $1,000 annual renewal. The concern we
I
have.
think it's only 100, to be honest. But
It's $100.
It's only $100. We're fine doing that, and we're fine registering it in whatever way is deemed appropriate. The concern we had was the idea that we would, if we have 3 games in storage, we would be charged $300,000 for the licenses. That's the way it was
No.
expressed to us.
no. Well, I can tell you, no.
Then we're good.
Yeah, I mean, we dealt with this a year ago and, right, you have set number of positions, so that's what you paid for. I think the issue is just if you're keeping these in the state, they may or may not be in use at some point. There should be some way for us to know, that where they are. So if that's the $100 fee, that seems like a nominal cost for you to, maintain these tables. Because maybe you want to bring them back or use them for something else. I don't know. But
Yeah, we'd be fine with that, and any way to, again, register them, we'd be happy to collaborate on.
I mean, does that make sense?
Yes, and that would exclude. Oh, yeah.
So it's 2.
Oh, okay, I see. I just want to clarify for the record. So I think so if you look at 1018A1, the $100 registration fee does not apply to table games operated as a training and education program tables. There is a $1,000 fee, but I believe that applies to position tables, correct?
That's the $100,000.
No, there's the one on C1.
Each gaming table is also subject to an annual gaming table.
Fee of $1,000. So
That's
for
probably.
those tables that are being used as positions,
Yeah.
there is a $1,000 annual renewal fee for those.
Yeah.
And the $100,000 initial fee. Just wanted to clarify.
So if they pay their $100 fee and it's in storage or wherever it is, does that solve the problem? Right? Can be tracked.
I don't know if I can speak to that as whether it solves the concerns expressed by the inspectors. But A1 does require $100 registration fee for tables, except for training education program tables. So in my reading of A1, that would solve the lack of fees being applied to these tables in storage.
Yeah, I mean, there's 18 positions, right? They were paid the $100,000 for 20 years. Until that changes, I mean, you could have another 18 sitting in storage. You want to swap them out, fine. But if you try to increase from 18 to 20, that's a different calculus and issue.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that solves the problem. It seems to me if you keep the sticker on and you're paying the fee, then we know where the table is. Am I missing something?
No, and honestly, I felt that it was a board's call on this, so that's why I wanted to bring it to the board.
Yeah, so. Do you need us to do something? I think that should solve the problem.
Yeah, I don't think a board vote is necessary for this.
Yeah, and again, we're looking at the positions on the floor when we talk about 100,000. Everything else, so,
Yeah.
It's a casino decision if they want to keep tables around or whatever, but Anything else on that? Okay,
We're good.
all right. All right, well, we have 8B, some new table games at Oxford Casino. Who wants to tee that up?
Oxford Casino.
Good morning.
Hey, Matt.
Hi there. So we're in the process of an anticipated change to Light and Wonder table games. And with this, there are 6 new side bets and or progressives that we would like to bring in to the state. I could do a quick overview of these. The side bets are Bet the Set 21, which is a blackjack side bet, where a pair on the first 2 cards will have a payout. Diceology, which is a crap side bet. It will have a couple of different options there to where they have to have certain numbers rolled before a 7. And if so, there will be a associated payout. Bad Beat Bonus, which is a side bet for Ultimate Texas Hold'em, where there is a triggering 3 of a kind or better to lose, which goes both ways with the dealer and the player. And based on what the losing hand is, we'll have a associated payout. And then there's the progressive units, which Blazing Sevens is a side bet we've had before, which is on blackjack. A multi-game link, which is similar to what we currently have through our AGS games. It is on Ultimate Texas Hold'em and Louisiana Stud. On both of those, there are triggering events which could trigger into a new game, which is Cash Spin, which has a separate payout table. So once the triggering event happens, the dealer will hit a button and we'll show them what they get, which could be up to the jackpot. And there's multiple jackpots. Blazing Sevens will only be available on the blackjack, multiple game link, only on the Ultimate Texas Hold'em and Louisiana Stud. But both of those will feed into the Cash Spin, which has an ultra jackpot, which is generally higher.
Question, because I know, so at least on Blazing Sevens and the Cash Spin progressive, right, it's a $5
yes
side bet. And I know you have in here, if you bet more, it doesn't,
yes
the win. Why do people bet more?
It would be a way to remove collusion potentially. A player in a dealer allowing a larger bet.
Okay.
And we just want to make sure that that's in the rules so those type of things do not happen, or even a mistake.
Yeah, because the payout is just a set number. It's not, 5 to 1 or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, sounds fun. Any questions for Matt? Okay. So for the AAGs, are you looking for us to vote to approve these?
Yes,
Okay. Can we take them as a set?
I believe so. That's fine.
Okay. So I've got, just so we're clear, we've got 8. Yeah. 8A through F, which are the multi-game link, side bet, Diceology crap side bet, Cash Spin progressive, Blazing Sevens progressive side, Blazing Sevens progressive blackjack side bet, Bet the 21 blackjack side bet, and Bad Beat Bonus Ultimate Texas Hold'em side bet. So be voting to approve all of those. Did I miss any? I think that's all of them.
That's what I have.
All right. Okay. Anyone want to make a motion to approve those side bets?
Motion to approve all as a set, March.
I see Joe's hand. I assume that's a second, if you want to unmute him.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, let's take a quick vote. Mr. Hanslet,
Aye.
Chief March.
Aye.
I'm an I as well. So we will get these, get those new bets out.
Thank you very much.
Any board business? Anyone have anything? All right. None for me. Public comment. You have something to say, now's the time. All right, I'm not seeing any hands. Our next meeting is Tuesday, September 19th, 9 a.m. I, barring an emergency, will be, in person. I believe we'll still have a Zoom option, but I think we're all intending to be there in person. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, March.
All right, let's take a quick roll call. Mr. Hanslip,
Aye.
Chief March,
Aye.
I'm an I as well. We'll see you all in September.
Thank you.